By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Nice to see you. Happy Friday. Tomorrow's the radio show, Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 9 a.m. Pacific time to 11 with my dear friend Johnny Million from Chicago, who started his own Twitch channel, and we're going to set up something where he jumps on after his show and we can rate it so everybody can be introduced to his Twitchness when he's playing music and that kind of stuff. Johnny's an amazing guitar player and he's a good human being, and there you have it. And then Philip Ittner, considering the current state of I guess there has been no. Well, let's check. Hold on. Still can't celebrate how Ukrainian business owner in Las Vegas reflects on 1 year war. I'm just trying to find the if there's any big push something. Nope. Files we're going to war. Live updates. New York Times. Let's go to this. Live updates on war's anniversary. Allies support Ukraine with words and weapons. Let's see. Currently, Zelensky's nightly address to Ukrainians on the anniversary of the invasion describes February 24th, 2022 as the longest day of our lives. During the year, virtually every Ukrainian lost someone: father, son, brother, mother, daughter, sister, beloved person, Mr. Zelensky said, adding, "We will never forget them. We will never forgive this." The front page last year, Russians push into the outskirts of capital as deaths rise and thousands flee west. Urmas Reinsalu, Estonia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, delivered a message to the Ukrainian Institute of America. The time will come for Putin to sit on the tribunal for the crimes he has committed. He has urged a final victory for Ukraine and stressed on this dark anniversary the importance of financial and military aid. He called out Russia's terrorist regime, the need to isolate it from the international community, and the need to give Ukraine full NATO membership. He received a standing ovation. For all of you that, the tankies that think this is just an American-pushed thing. At the 11th hour, EU ambassadors approved new sanctions against Russia. Brussels' European Union ambassadors approved a new raft of sanctions against Moscow on Friday, less than 2 hours before their self-imposed deadline, as the bloc sought to send a strong signal of condemnation of Russia's brutal war against Ukraine on the anniversary of the invasion. And new measures would cost Russia 11 billion euros, or $11.8 billion. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, said last week. In Bucha, whose civilians were butchered early in the war, the funerals are now for soldiers. And there's the kid throwing Vladimir Putin. The Banksy mural has been turned into a stamp. Brussels to Bangkok, demonstrations around the world showing support for Ukraine. I guess the whole world just loves them some Nazis. That's the idea, right? That we just decided after a while, you know what? Maybe the Nazis are right. Maybe that's what's happening. Yeah. The world has just decided all of a sudden to be cool with it. Or UN Secretary Council calls for peace but remains divided over how to achieve it. Because they have to deal with that fact. Fuck. There you go. New York Times reporter reflect on the moments from the war that are seared in their minds. Let's see. Yep. White House warns Russia is considering giving fighter jets to Iran. Yeah, because you can have the ones that don't work anymore. You can have all the ones that are on the ground in Ukraine. Great. Where are they parked? They're not so much parked as scattered. But they're all yours. G7 leaders say their solidarity with Ukraine will never waver. This is true, by the way. For whatever, all the blather you hear from these fuckers, on the right and the faux left. Yeah. Yep. All these, it's just brutal. It looks at 6 cities at the center of the war. And Red Square in Moscow was dusted with snow on Friday with little indication of the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Yeah, they're just tourists hanging out and taking pictures, trying to everybody look normal. Yeah, there you go. So, obviously not at this point. Oh, hey, asshole. Obviously not any word of, and I'll check the Twitter machines, and then we'll open the chat too and say hi to you guys in 1 second. Let's see if there's any newsage coming out of there. Hold on. Just to make sure we're not missing anything that's happening in the latest. Most of it is about the yeah. This is the, by the way, this is Mick Wallace tweeting. I think he's one of the Irish politicians. A year of war, and most politicians in the EU still can't get enough of it. They couldn't utter the words diplomacy and dialogue all year now. Argue that pouring more and more arms into Ukraine is the way to peace. They realize that guns and tanks kill people. Yeah, they do. Do you realize also that if a defenseless person who's being attacked is not allowed to defend themselves or help to defend themselves, they continue to be victimized? Don't you understand that at some point, if you stop fighting back, it goes from rape to straight sex? That's the argument Mick Wallace is making. Congrats, Mick Wallace. You're a rape apologist. That's not how anything works. Fuck you. This is the yeah, there you go. China calls for Russia-Ukraine ceasefire as claims to neutrality question. You think? Russian paratroopers or engineering sapper groups spoke about the daily work on the installation of engineering barriers. Yeah, that's what they called it. Bricking. Yeah, here they are placing claymores in someone else's country. Here's a bunch of dead birds. Hey, it's Laura Loomer. Laura reacts to the news. By the way, Laura Loomer is a Republican QAnon loony who ran for office and lost, who has one purpose these days, and that is to shit on Marjorie Taylor Greene and from the right. So we're for it. Yeah, there she is. Look at that. Marjorie to introduce bill to audit U.S. aid to Ukraine. Okay, sure. We'll audit it after you pay back your PPP loan. How about that? Yeah, no. So far, let's see. 300 novel truths from the media for their own reasons don't want you to hear Putin say. This is the Federal. This is the Republicans' paper of choice, the Federalists, ladies and gentlemen. These are the ones. These are the people who picked all of Trump's judges: Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, all of them. National media, for their own reasons, don't want you to hear that Vladimir Putin said about the war in Ukraine. Why not? Okay, the U.S. has used Ukraine to prepare for a large war. They have publicly admitted that. This is, in fact, implicit, if not official policy articulated by the... It is not articulated, and therefore it is not implicit. The president himself declared last year that Putin cannot remain in power, a threat to a forced regime change if there ever was one. Biden kicked off the week by visiting the capital of Ukraine, a literal war zone with no U.S. military presence, as if to claim the conflict is as much ours as it is Ukraine's. And it is, given that we're footing about 2/3 of the Ukraine. Okay, so this is their thing about, like, Boris Johnson went, and they're like, what a tough guy. Too bad our president's such a pussy. And then Biden goes, and they're like, whoa, slow your roll there, cowboy. The West is guilty of escalation. Yes, when a rape victim scratches the face of her attacker in an attempt to either wound the person to the point where they cannot attack any further, or to at least get some skin cells under her nails so that they can identify her attacker lest he kills her, she is guilty of escalation in the words of the Federalist. And if it implicit, if not directly admitted. The West, want to have a strategic defeat of Russia. It means they want to have no more anything to do with Russia. They want to have a global resistance against Russia. What part of that contradicts anything the Biden administration, most of Congress, virtually every form of has said? They all say it. Yes, they do now. Before this attack, everybody was like, I don't know, they can have a pipeline if they want to. Just don't be a dick. And we got to talk about some of this stuff, and we're going to have to work out these things. That up till the point where Russia attacked, everybody was talking like they always talk. Now that there are mass graves, now that there is footage from the Wagner Group and Russian security forces that is worse than ISIS videos. And that's saying a lot. And normally Republicans allegedly would be against that kind of behavior. I guess when it comes from brown Muslims, then that's when it's offensive. Right? But if it's a bunch of Russian white dudes, I guess they get a pass. Is that how it works, Federalist? I guess so. Say whatever you want about Putin. He's not irrational. Oh, I didn't say he's irrational. I think he's fucking dumb. And here's okay. Assume that right now Russia were to retreat from Ukraine and declare a truce. Who's going to be the first to propose that the U.S. and Europe resume regular trade and cooperation to stabilize Russia's economy and its standing in the world? None of them will. They all expect a lasting minimizing of Russia, preferably without Putin in the picture. Okay, first of all, how about we give it a try? Secondly, everybody. Also, is there talk about like, I guess just creating a random hypothetical impossibility, because there is no situation where Russia backs out and declares a truce immediately and Putin stays in charge. That doesn't happen. There's no way the Russians allow for that. It's goofy. So to suggest that somehow our demands are predicated on something that cannot happen or something that will happen whether we wanted it to or not, in this case, is fucking absurd, as is most of the shit you see from the Federalist. So garbage. Anyways, right now there does not seem to be, any major escalation beyond the norm. Let's see if we can translate this dude. Huge convoy of massive armored cars on the way to Ukraine. Okay, that's gear coming into the country. Cool. Anyways, back to idiots. Now, look at this no NATO. Look at this motherfucker. This is Redacted. You know, this guy right here used to be on Fox News, used to be on Fox and Friends, I think, at one point, and had to leave the country because he bilked a bunch of people in Indiana out of their life savings, and he's on the run. He and his wife live in fucking, I don't know, Belize or some shit. They're just like basically off the grid. And by the way, hi chat. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Love to see you. Yeah, Portugal. Thank you. That's where they are. I always forget because I don't care. Phil is joining Ali Velshi on MSNBC. That's awesome. Yay. Nicely done. And thanks, Ali Velshi. Yes, this guy, yes, he's miserable. But have you heard about investing in precious metals and gold? Because he would like to sell some stuff to you at the end of this video, I have no doubt. So you lost your pet monkey, Balthanos? That's terrible. I hope that's just a silly reference and not true. Yeah. He was on Nicole Sandler today as well. Excellent. Awesome. Very happy to hear about it. That's nice. Okay, here we go. So we'll have something to talk about with him about that part of it tomorrow. That's excellent. Maybe I can even grab the audio. Place it's possible. It's the laundressmats. Anyways. Okay, so this is this Redacted prick with the guy who ran the Rage for Russia thing. What's his name? Nick Brana, the guy who put on the big event that nobody went to.
Well, should NATO be banned, put an end to, silenced, shut down for good? It runs.
Well, that's I mean that is the biggest question around RT today.
Around under the guise that it's a defensive organization, but it's laughable. Anyone with a brain knows it's anything but defensive. Just look at Ukraine.
Yeah, they are defending Ukraine right now. Ukraine, by the way, did not attack Russia with NATO weapons. Yeah, I mean, anybody?
Of course, which is now being used as a proxy to expand NATO's territory right to Russia's doorstep.
By the way, NATO is already at Russia's doorstep in, I think, 3 other countries.
Promise they broke. Nick Brana is one of the organizers of the raid.
And by the way, they did not break it. First of all, the promise that Russia made in 1997 to allow any country that wants to join NATO its freedom to do so. They broke that.
Against the war machine rally in D.C. over the past,
which was really, it was just all, there was a, like, people I saw, I mean, I think it happened a little.
past couple of weeks. He's been doing amazing work.
Yeah. Like his, the work he did setting up, like helping Jimmy Dore write his jokes. Well, steal his jokes. Amazing.
Really revitalizing an anti-war movement that has been dead in the United States.
Absolutely. The new hippies.
And he has a new mission.
It's a new thing for hippies where they pick a side
to say no to NATO. And
because I think that's the one thing that was missing in the 60s was that the hippie movement should have come out on behalf of the Viet Cong. You know what I mean? It's different. It's not one thing to come out there and say no war, peace is important. No. Rooting for the other side. That's where it's at.
Nick joins us here on the show. Nick, welcome back to the show. And congratulations, by the way, on the huge success of the Rage Against the War Machine rally in Washington.
Okay, that's just rude. Look at him. Does this look like a guy who just had a huge success? He looks like he just auditioned for a paper towel ad, and they went, "We're going another way."
Washington, D.C. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Clayton.
So tell us before.
And notice he didn't go, "Thanks, yeah, it was great. It went very well." Yeah, notice there wasn't any leap.
We get into the NATO side of this, which I'm particularly interested in. I want to hear,
as a resident of Portugal.
First of all, what has been the response now that we've had this,
besides laughter,
revitalization of this anti-war movement in the United States? Were you surprised by the mainstream media's response to your rally in D.C.? And, are you energized going forward to see maybe a doubling of these events as we move forward?
Yes. Hopefully next time it'll be, what's 2 times 0?
Well, it was huge.
It was huge.
The rally was huge.
It was huge.
We had about 3,000 people who came out and joined us
and half of them were there photographing the thing, but not with it.
The Lincoln Memorial, right next to the reflecting pool.
Yeah, that's when you get a permit. That's usually where you get the permit for.
We had an amazing group of speakers.
When? I mean, not the first day. Was there a second day?
Former presidential candidates and.
So you're saying they didn't win national office? Weird.
Members of Congress: Dennis Kucinich, Tulsi.
Former members of Congress:
Gabbard, Ron Paul.
Former, I guess, audit the Fed superstars.
They're incredible people like Jimmy Dore.
Yes. Just like him. You know who just like him? The people whose jokes he did that weren't there because they were either dead or uncredited.
Just an amazing lineup. And one of the things that I'm most proud about is that it really showed that we can break out of those political silos.
Yes, we had neo-Nazis. We had people holding up Russian flags. We had anti-vaxxers. It was a big tent.
We don't have to accept the labels and, remain segmented and
the nice thing is the ethnic diversity that we had there.
Afraid of each other as Americans, but rather we can come together.
Yeah, if you go across the entire audience.
The range was, there were all from, libertarians to socialists and communists, just a complete political range of people there who were united by one thing, the fact
their whiteness. Sorry. I haven't seen I mean, it was smart that they spread the audience out this way by flattening them against the pool so that it makes it look wider.
They oppose this war and they do not want a nuclear war. Our march stretched several blocks to the White House, from the Lincoln Memorial to the White House.
Wow, all the way, huh? I mean, I'm surprised that by the time you got there, there weren't still people at the thing because the line was the whole crowd moved and it was over. Okay.
We had another huge rally when we got to the White House.
Oh yeah, I mean, Right up there with the Tea Party, Million Man March. I mean, it's the samey same.
House delivered the message there.
Oh, was it written on a cake? Was it?
And of course, you asked about the mainstream media. I think the mainstream media's reaction was predictable, but also very telling. The fact that we were attacked not once, but twice.
Yeah, that's not the rally, I would like to say. Today marks 9 years since Ukrainians are killing. The footage that you're seeing right there, that isn't. That's footage from 2014. All right.
On MSNBC by Rachel Maddow and Joy Ann Reid in ridiculous segments that they had.
About the, yes, ridiculous, about the serious number of Russian flags that were being flown.
Really
and the 1776 flags right next to them.
Reveals how brittle and fragile and
there's this the 2A flag
hold on power is, and how afraid they are of us.
Nah, they just think you're assholes.
We're just getting started. We have plans.
Biden is the Nord Stream bomber next to a dude. I mean, with the Russian flag, I gotta say, you're not doing yourself any favors.
To continue. This is just the beginning, and yet already they felt the need to attack and ridicule us as
well, attack on obviously, because in their perception, and mine as well, you guys are not really an anti-war or a peace rally. You are siding with Russia. You want Ukraine to pants itself in front of Russia for some bizarre fucking reason. They're supposed to take it, just like Georgia took it, just like Chechnya took it. Like that. That's just the world's job, is to let Russia threaten us all with nukes while it rapes its way across the continent. And that's, we're supposed to just accept that for fear of what's upsetting our latte. Is that are we just latte liberals, clinging to the skirt of Vladimir Putin's gown?
The saying goes, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win.
It doesn't always work out that way. I just wanted you to know. Sometimes they ignore you and that's it. Sometimes they ignore you and then they laugh at you and then they go back to ignoring you. Don't ask me how I know that as a redneck who moved to Chicago.
Well, now they're fighting us.
No, they're not. They're not fighting you. They stopped at ridicule. I'm ridiculing you. I'm not fighting you. Have another one of those. Borrow Rage Against the Machine's name again. Plagiarize the shit out of it. Have your hand-carved Etsy puzzle behind your head over your, I guess that is a bed frame. That's a bed frame from IKEA. Or the ridge of a wall. We'll see. Anyways, do it. Are we attacking this asshole, or I think it's just ridicule, right? We're just going to stick with ridicule and then ignore.
And so that's a good thing.
Is it? Well, it would be, because it would mean that you were worth more than ridicule. Is that the idea?
Also, the fact that Biden immediately the next day went to Ukraine.
Yeah, that's what it was. You guys made him go to Ukraine. He immediately flew to Ukraine and took a 10-hour train ride, or flew to Poland, took a 10-hour train ride there to be there in time to be there before your thing. Because of 3,000 assholes, 1,500 of which who weren't even supporting you or were supporting white supremacy or the Russian government, and a spattering of other anti-vax JFK Jr. shit that was also there, half the QAnons that were there. He was so worried about a small gathering of lunatics in a country of 340 million that he raced to Ukraine for cover and threw together a giant speech in Poland last minute just to dunk on you guys.
And chose that day knowing that we had this rally planned.
Oh my God. The fucking ego. Dude. Wow.
On that day.
Nobody cares.
That, I think, is also very telling.
It's not. It's very telling about your individual narcissism, your sociopathic tendencies towards the people and the victims in Ukraine, and your obviously cult-like adoration of Vladimir Putin as a true and powerful man.
And very significant. This was the largest peace rally, certainly since the war has escalated in this past year.
Well, yeah. First of all, I take issue with it being a peace rally at all. Secondly, America is not actually in this war. We are supporting another country with we don't have troops over there and the like. And as somebody, and I'm sure there are people in my chat room as well. What do you think, chat room? Who during the beginning of the Iraq War, especially, and the Afghanistan War, were protesting against its existence. Even going back to the 91 Iraq War, when we had protests in the streets. Anybody remember going to those? The 11-day or 21-day war that we went through back then, that we all went into the streets and told them to fuck off and get out of there because it was our country invading another country and we didn't want to be a part of that. And we were A, against it, and B, allowed to do it. Even if we weren't able to stop it, the peace rally itself was allowed to go forward. Unlike in Russia, where if you do, you're jailed. So I would rather be in the country where I can protest something out in the open, just like these assholes. I mean, the fucking irony that this dude can have a peace march, he calls it, an anti-US involvement in Ukraine for the benefit of Russia rally. And you know what happens to him? You know what happens to him at the end? He gets laughed at, and that's the end of it. Meanwhile, in Russia, people are getting scooped up off the fucking street like the old Soviet Union is back. And this asshole is rooting for that side. He wants that here. Yeah, exactly. No blood for oil. Like, we were all out there about this. I remember everybody, we're like, why the fuck are we going into Iraq? I think it was at 4 of those fucking things. Anyways, like, yeah, try having your little gathering and getting a pat on the back from some dickhead in Portugal, in Russia.
And probably since the Iraq war protests,
since the real ones,
2007. So it's very significant. It's had a big impact.
No, it hasn't.
And then, of course, there was the hilarious fact that MSNBC undermined its own kind of ridiculous caricature of the rally by having a reporter on the ground who interviewed people, as you and Dan covered yesterday, who revealed that, in fact, the rally had nothing to do with this kind of stereotype that they were trying to create of everybody there being Putin puppets or being...
That's because the only people that would talk to her, or the only ones that MSNBC would run with who didn't swear or freak out, the people with the Russian flags weren't coming over to chit chat.
You know, some crazy fringe like wingnut. These are people from across the political spectrum, just Americans who...
Yeah, especially the ones with the neo-Nazi flag.
Want peace, who are tired of their hard-earned tax dollars going to killing people abroad, $100 billion, who are tired of giving up their freedoms for war, who are tired...
What freedoms? Like, I get the tax dollar thing because that's going to be the complaint. It always is. And it's a lend-lease program that's been started, so it's less of your tax dollars. You're actually going to... Congratulations, American taxpayer. Technically speaking, it'll take a long time, but you're a war profiteer. You will eventually make money on this lend-lease thing, a smidgen, a little bit of interest, but for a good cause. You're loaning your money to a good cause, and if it fails, obviously you'll never get a dime back. But if they survive, you'll eventually get your shit back and some interest, just like England after World War II, which I believe, like, when was it? Like 6 years ago? 6 years ago, they finally paid back their entire thing, their entire lend-lease amount post World War II. But what the fuck is he talking about with that second point? Run that by me again.
$100 billion who are tired of giving up their freedoms for war.
What does that mean? They are tired of giving up their freedoms for war. What freedoms would those be? Does anybody know? I'm sorry. Which freedoms did you guys lose because we're supporting Ukraine against the attack by Russia? Anybody?
Who are tired of being the victims of empire themselves. And
how are American citizens who have enough free time to be able to fly to their nation's capital and gather to watch Jimmy Dore steal other people's jokes and bomb his way through an easy gig? You have the ability to do that. You are the freedom to do that. You have you have the extra money to do that in your pocket. You can make that kind of a decision with your life because you don't have food insecurity. You don't have bills that are going unpaid. You could just gather up your shit and fly to DC to be part of this thing. And you're a victim of empire.
And subjecting the whole rest of the world to that. So it was
we are. Yes. America by defending Ukraine, not Russia by attacking Ukraine and threatening the world with nuclear annihilation. We're the ones.
Huge success. I'm very much looking forward to what we have in store next. We've got a lot of plans.
So I don't doubt you have a lot of plans. However, they are a hill of beans is actually worthwhile. So I won't say they won't amount to a hill of beans. They won't even come close. Pile of beans, a bean. A bean.
So that's what I want to get to. I'm excited about it. And you're right. I mean, the thousands of people that came, it's not like they were living in Washington, D.C. They came.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They bought plane tickets and hotels and snacks, and they went and saw the Smithsonian while they were there, and they probably called Lauren Boebert and got a tour of the fucking Capitol, and they had a little like Confederate flag folded in their pocket so they could just hold it as they went through and feel all naughty.
From Ohio, they came from California, they came from all over the country.
Right. Because as victims of an oppressive government, they were able to fly from anywhere in that country and stand in opposition to it mere blocks away from the nation's capital. It must have been terrifying. How many of them are on the run? Are you in Portugal now, living in what's his name's basement?
In support of this rally, which is amazing, and just speak.
It's amazing that they had all that free money. They could just buy tickets. Were fairly cheap, were they? There's some good flights. Did you have a deal on hotels at the website or
to the reach? And how many?
Was Expedia a sponsor? Or
thousands more maybe really wanted to go that couldn't come, but maybe donated money to the cause, which is also equally important.
Yeah, especially if the government finds out you donated that money, then what? They let you.
So this next mission, NATO, this No to NATO rally, which is happening this Saturday in London. George Galloway, Claire Daly, among others, will be there speaking. So tell us about...
Among others, Russell Brand and Claire Galloway and...
About the No to NATO, what was the start of this, the gestation of this project? Because
the genesis, you mean? Nah, fuck it.
Because this one...
The gestation. Let's just go with, how long did it sit in the fake womb, in the test tube, growing as it went through all the phases where it became a fetus?
I am very interested in.
I'm so interested. I can't travel there because of extradition in England will get me sent back to the United States to face justice. But what's it like? Tell me. Be my eyes.
That's right. This is huge.
Huge.
And all credit. This is our partner rally in London. All credit to former members of Parliament in the UK, George Galloway, Chris Williamson, with the Workers' Party and the Socialist Party.
Mm-hmm. All the people who don't like a functioning government and wish that the USSR had survived and are still pissed.
In the UK, and also current and sitting members of the European Parliament, MEPs Claire Daly and Mick Wallace.
Right, the two Irish people who are weirdly on Putin's side.
Who are just incredible heroes of peace, will be there, low-key, many other incredible people.
Loki, the god of mischief. Will he be wearing the big golden horns, or
Rage Against the War Machine speakers Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil will
well, yeah, obviously this is all ginned up so you guys get to travel on other people's dime. We get
be
that.
there. And so this is going to be another big gathering, and they're focusing on abolishing NATO, as one of our demands was as well. And
Yeah, that'll happen. Good luck with that.
so they'll be rallying in London. They actually haven't even revealed the location yet, despite the fact that the event is this Saturday, on the 25th of February, because they scheduled 2 different venues before this, and then there was a smear and hate campaign against them that targeted the venues, that led the venue to cancel on them twice.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Oh dear. So people, the people who have the venues, who own the venues, saw who was going to speak, thought those people were disgusting, pro-Putin warmongers who want to give the Russians a chance to reload and murder everyone and then dismantle whatever defenses Europe has against Russian hegemony in the region, which Russia brags about non-fucking stop. And that person didn't let you. That's weird.
And so they're not even releasing the name of the venue until basically immediately before the event.
So that it can be canceled immediately and you all have to meet on the steps and then they can firebomb the place like a bunch of dickheads.
So that's the degree to which these kind of pro-NATO, pro-war.
Yes, pro-NATO, pro-war, pro-Russian invasion. Oh, no, that's you guys. Sorry.
Forces don't even want anybody who is opposed to this war to express that.
No. For the record, you can't actually say that because in this particular case, this is not a no to war in general peace rally that you're talking about. This is a get rid of NATO gathering. That's a very distinct thing. That is not the same thing as being anti-war. That's like saying I am against gun violence, but I'm only picketing against bulletproof vests. If people would stop wearing bulletproof vests, the gunfights would be over sooner.
It's amazing.
It's so amazing.
Happen to have any idea who's behind this smear campaign?
Just people with morals and who live in reality. It's gross.
These attacks. I mean, we've seen certainly the deep state has,
Yeah, the deep state. I mean, obviously they're going to do it. You get, if you go by, the deep state has that billboard out on 41 and you can drive by it and that's where they give the message out. I mean, it looks like an ad for a DC movie, but if you stare at it long enough, you know they're sending you a message.
Militarized social media accounts before, weaponize these accounts to go after and to try to push these messages out to try to stop.
Ooh, I feel seen.
These sort of anti-Ukraine war movements and so forth. So do you have any idea this time who's behind these attacks?
Anti-Ukraine war movements. Oh, anti-Ukraine war movements or anti-Ukraine war movements? All right.
Well, it seems to be these same kind of NAFO forces, which are, of course, just a complete AstroTurf project of the intelligence agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's what I am. I don't know if you guys know this. I don't actually exist. I was created by AI, anyways. The Pentagon drafted me up. As a first generation, I think they did pretty darn well. Obviously, the new ones have blue eyes and are much taller and prettier, but I'll do in a pinch. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of like Wally. I may not be pretty like Eve, but I can still do my job. Eva, but I'm out there, and everything I say is obviously fake and comes from a place that I truly don't believe, because I really just say it because I got nothing better to do. Yeah, that's what it is. Most of us say fuck you to these people because what else are we gonna do? Learn to play piano? Jesus Christ.
That are really waging essentially these harassment campaigns
Boo-hoo.
against the venues
Oh, no.
in order to get them canceled.
Oh, no. That would mean.
And besides that, I'm not
besides that.
not sure who else may be responsible, but
excuse me. Just establishment. Just say establishment. Deep state. We all know what you mean. Illuminati, eyes wide shut, lizard people.
I think it's pretty clear.
Ask Alex Jones.
I think there was a similar campaign waged against us, actually.
Of course you do. It couldn't possibly be that more people weren't interested than were, and that you had a pitiful turnout that was completely predictable for a free event, which was a mixture of people who are anti-vax, pro-Russia, like audit the Fed. Oh my God, is Tulsi that pretty in person? Like a mix of that crowd. Couldn't be that there was just a spattering of 75 different groups attached to each individual that was speaking there and that lollygagged during the rest of it. That couldn't be it. It had to have been a plot. That's what I've been trying to tell you guys. I mean, I've said for a long time, I am being shadow banned by YouTube. That's right. By all the sites. Every site is shadow banning me. I'm being banned by the shadow. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. And we ban house parks. They've been doing it, and only your likes and subscribes and thumbs ups and super chats and super thanks and what you would call it, the bits and bots and floops and bleeps and stars on Facebook. That's what I was trying to think of. Can save me from being shadow banned. It's not that I have a channel that's only been around for a little while, that really is only exists in long form, which is a lot for people to accept. It's not that other people like 3-minute and 5-minute bleep blurps of their show. No, it's because they're trying to stop me. Somebody stop me. Anyways.
In order to try to kind of break up our coalition in the...
Yeah, they'll never tear us apart. Boom, down, 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 bum, 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 bam. Boom, down, 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 bum.
The United States, going after particular speakers, trying to smear them, trying to create dissension within the coalition that we were bringing.
That's right. Yeah. What kind of an asshole would try to get true peaceniks, libertarians, white supremacists, Russian stooges, violent insurrectionists, and wannabe weatherman bombers? Why would you want to drive a wedge between those folks?
Together, which of course...
Oh, you got the NXS right out of one line. That was good. It was the proper note, I'm just saying.
Expand from left to right.
By the way, does anybody else feel like they need to buy a different brand of paper towels?
I think it was very deliberate. I spoke to others, including former member of Congress, Dennis Kucinich. He agreed. He said this has intelligence hands on it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Obviously, the running of this event and the words said from the stage didn't have any intelligence involvement. But yes, I would agree with you. I think those opposed to this thing do have a certain amount of intelligence.
And so I think that there absolutely is a campaign that goes to intelligence, to our government, to try to smear and break up this new kind of chapter and revival of the anti-war movement.
Yeah, no. All right, fuck you, dude. All right, I know we're in the era of Trump and the fucking Kardashians, and the entire methodology of modern social media and shit is all about blowing smoke up your fucking ass yourself with a giant, just running a tube right to your rectum and screaming into it. But for God's sake, man, douse your fucking ego. Nobody cares. Here's a theory, and I'm going to float this with you. Maybe, and this is something we all have to confront. I deal with this all the time when my little station's just making its way, and then we get a big boost, and I'm like, all right, maybe it is good. Maybe the show is good. Maybe I get I'm getting into the 10K on all of my videos now, where I used to have them at like 1. I'm like, that's a good sign. I feel like I'm moving. But at certain points, I was like, okay, where do I suck? And how can I fix that? And so I'm constantly, I mean, you can't be afraid of that. I am definitely, for the record, let's get philosophical for a moment, if I may, ladies and gentlemen. Some people will tell you that you should never regret anything because the past made you who you are. Well, if you have no regrets, you are ignoring the bad parts of your past that should shape your character to keep you from doing shitty things again the second time. Regret has a value. The other thing is that people like, you should just love yourself and believe in yourself no matter what. No. Sometimes you suck, and it's reflected in other people. People will look at you and go, nah, you suck. And go work on yourself. Don't go, no, I am perfect the way I am. You just don't understand. Look, if you're going to inflict yourself on the rest of humanity, work on getting your shit together. Nobody is a diamond in the rough. If you think of yourself as a diamond in the rough and people just have to come to you and you know, they just have to see the true beauty of me. I don't have to do any of the work. You are a bigger egomaniac than any of the people that you view as being, you know, the others, that, you know, the elites or the shiny people or the fucking celebrities. How dare they walk around all pretty and fit and well-dressed and all that kind of shit. Won't people recognize me with my bad breath and kale in my teeth and my fly open and my dirty drawers? What, underneath all that, there's a fine human being. Fuck you. And at the same time, maybe, just maybe, the turnout sucked because you suck. Maybe, just maybe, your message is ass. That has to be part of the, maybe it isn't. Maybe at some point you're like, you know what? We were right the whole time. I go through that, certainly. You're welcome. But at some point, you have to factor that in. And even if you turn out to be correct, you can go, well, at least I truly was not afraid to question myself in the face of it. Meanwhile, these guys are going, no, it couldn't be that we had a parade of assholes with a dead message and a bizarre idea of what peace is, which seems to be the surrender of good people to bad on behalf of people that represent a thought form that no longer exists, meaning Russia, because we miss the fact that the USSR existed somehow. Yeah, it could be that. It has to be that someone is out to get me. Someone is trying to stop me. And we can't let them do it. We mustn't let them do it. Unless these people just decided on their own not to come, and then that, okay.
Both in the United States and in the UK.
Well, it's obviously spreading. I mean, you can't have a conspiracy, you know, on a global scale if it doesn't globalize. You know what I mean? You can't have just a bunch of people in Toledo making phone calls.
So why should we say no to NATO? Why should NATO be ended?
And this is the flag of NATO in a graphic form that he put up for God knows what reason. Probably so they could edit this.
NATO is a warmongering tool of the United States, essentially.
All right, okay, that should solve it. Warmongering tool of the United States. So they were, the NATO countries were not keeping up their part of the bargain. Have you listened to Trump's whole thing? They weren't building up military stuff. They weren't feeding military stuff into the NATO chamber, as it were.
It is the weapon that has been used against Russia.
It has? What, in Chechnya or Georgia? Or when they like took people out of Dagestan and forced them to fight in Ukraine, or when?
There were some kind of pro-Ukraine war figures who showed up at the rally, and when I spoke with them at the rally on Sunday, ours, Rage Against the War Machine, and they were saying, Russia has this imperial project and these imperial aims, and they want to reconstitute the Soviet Union. That's
because they say that.
ridiculous.
No, it is ridiculous. They're not going to do it, but they want to do it.
There is no evidence of that.
For Vladimir Putin, the Soviet Union's fall was the greatest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. Russian foreign policy has sought to reimpose control over former Soviet countries. Vladimir Putin has been in office as a president or prime minister of the Russian Federation since August 9th, 1999, for more than 20 years. During the years of his presidency and premiership, he has pursued the goals of uniting Russian Federation into a strong, independent nation and restoring Russia's supremacy on an international scene as a great power. However, on his way to achieving these goals, the evolution of the Russian foreign policy has been viewed by other nations as Russia trying to gain influence over the post-Soviet countries and deterring the expansion of Western institutes, particularly NATO. Vladimir Putin began his career in 1975 when, at 4 years old, he snuffed a man with a rag dipped in radioactive material. He was serving as a foreign intelligence officer of the Committee for State Security, the KGB, for 15 years. In 1994, he climbed to the position of first deputy mayor, blah, blah, blah. General public had little knowledge of Vladimir Putin, blah, blah, blah. Ceasefire agreement was reached in May 1996. However, violence erupted soon again. Chechen rebels entering the neighboring Russian Republic, Dagestan, in August 1999 to support the local separatist rebellion. The following month, 5 cases of bombings were recorded in different Russian cities, killing over 300 civilians. Moscow blamed Chechen separatists. The invasion in Dagestan and bombings led Russian forces to initiate the Second Chechen War, also known as the War in the North Caucasus. Vladimir Putin dealt with the crisis in Chechnya with surprising success. His decisive and sharp political figure appeared in contrast with Yeltsin's fragile health, who unexpectedly resigned December 31st, 1999, and named Vladimir Putin as the acting president of Russia. In March 2000, Vladimir Putin won the presidential election and inherited a deep economic crisis and crumbling infrastructure. A new elite class of oligarchs, rich and often criminal authorities, was booming. Blah, blah, blah. Vladimir aimed to reform Russia into a strong sovereign nation. The centerpiece of the Kremlin's new ideology can be found in his words said during a speech in Parliament in 1999. Not one of those tasks can be performed without imposing basic order and discipline on this country, without strengthening the vertical chain. Russia has been a great power for centuries and remains so. It has always had and still has legitimate zones of interest. We should not drop our guard in this respect, neither should we allow our opinion to be ignored. Hence, domestically, he strived for stability and authority, while internationally, he aimed for Russian foreign policy to help regain Russia's status as a great power. It's why he started taking over places like Dagestan and Georgia and and Chechnya, and of course, why Ukraine now. That's evidence. You can say it's his own words aren't legit evidence because how much are they actually carrying it out? This goes back to, was January 6th an insurrection because it failed, or was it an attempted insurrection but not an actual insurrection because of the same reason?
What I told them is, look at a map.
Yeah. Fuck you, okay? Look at a map. Don't you even understand?
NATO is the one that has expanded right up to Russia's border over the last 30 years. Russia's border hasn't changed.
It hasn't? That would be news to the Chechens and the Georgians and the Ukrainians, wouldn't you say?
Since the dissolution of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, it has. Two whole Chechen wars. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Russian Georgian War. Let's see if we can get a map here, ladies and gentlemen, if I may. Let's see. Go this by other. Yeah, scroll this guy up. There we go. Hi. Well, that would be a. That in many ways would be viewed by some people as a changing of your border. Just South Ossetia and Abkhazia now becoming parts of Russia, much to the chagrin of the Georgians. Also, if I may, see this little area right here? See this little thing right here? See that? Okay, when they first came in, this is the area they kept. Here. And they expanded out to here, and they expanded out to here, and then they kept doing it, and they fought back and forth, and then they crossed this line right here to this little mountain range right here to basically split the opposition of anybody in this part of the country. And see this little thing right here? The little boom, boom, boom right across there, and this little thing? Okay, that's a pipeline that they now have control over. And they get transit fees because it's going through Russian territory. So Georgia has to pay Russia transit fees on its own pipeline as it goes through this little slip of land right here. And they keep moving this border south. Like this was like right up on the edge of it a few years ago, and they move like 90 meters every couple of months. I mean, just this is a flat out lie. I mean, and again, if these people were there, I hope at least one person was like, that's not true. They invaded Georgia. They invaded Ukraine. Their borders have changed. They're claiming that that's their land. They've killed people in mass to do it. What are you talking about? Of course they don't have the same borders they had in 91. As a matter of fact, that's what this whole fucking war is about.
The Soviet Union broke up.
Yes, it did. It sucked itself to death.
Russia contracted. And then NATO went right up to its border, added almost doubled in size, grew to about 30 different members. So its whole purpose is
to, because Russia, even though it was no longer the USSR, still maintained 4,500 nuclear weapons, still maintained, even though it didn't have a communist government, moved to an oligarchical government, but still had the same animosity to Europe. Distinction without a difference. They went from czar to communist leader to oligarchical villain. Same shit. Tell me the difference, ultimately, between the czars, Lenin, and Putin in terms of the people's lives. Because all the goodness, all the stuff that helped the Russian people over time came from Europe. Partnering with Europe, being normal in all of those phases. And all the pain that came to the people of Russia came because of cutting off from the surrounding area and becoming a violent antagonist towards other countries.
To essentially wage war against Russia. That's been revealed now by Angela Merkel, who told us that the Minsk II agreement was essentially just a stall tactic to wage war against Russia.
Why? Russia wasn't a party to the Minsk agreement, according to them. What difference would it make? A, that's not what she said. But also, like, this is what every ceasefire they're asking for on Russia's side is about. But why? What does the Minsk agreement have to do with Russia at all? We looked at it this morning. I posted it. Anybody? Anybody. The Minsk agreement, Russia was not a party to the Minsk agreement. That's why it was in Minsk. It was between Ukraine, the main government of Ukraine, and the Luhansk and Donetsk local governments. And Russia fucked it up by because parts of the deal were you got to get foreign fighters out of the area. Ukraine didn't have any. Donetsk and Luhansk did. They were all Russians. Russia wouldn't remove those people. No Minsk agreement.
To rearm Ukraine. The aim of the United States has always been, and NATO by extension, has always been to balkanize Russia, to break it up into smaller countries, and to depose Putin. And they're
why would they do that? Just because is it because of is it his aftershave? It's his aftershave, isn't it? It's weird. Why are they picking on him? It's because he's short.
very open about that now.
Well, yeah, because he's sending rape squads into other countries. This might be why. I mean, I'm just gonna. This isn't all of it, but this is part of it. I don't know why um, the NATO countries or any country, whatever, might have a bone to pick with Russia, besides the fact that it sends assassins into other people's countries specifically to like snuff people in parks in Berlin and all that stuff, like old school low res Bond villain bullshit. But this might be part of it. This might have gotten under somebody's skin eventually. Putin's chef, Prigozhin, runs the Wagner Group, which is a up until this point, because they're not getting as much ammo as they want from the Russian military, has been thick as thieves and been sent by Russia as a satellite organization to both make money for the country and to carry out its more egregious political aims without getting the regular army messy, so they can take place. They can take part in war games with the rest of Europe and shit like that, and act innocent in that regard. Witnesses are pointing a finger at the Wagner Group over a series of gruesome killings that allegedly involved disemboweling several women. Ibam, Cameroon. It was the most barbaric act of violence Nas Ali said he has witnessed since the Central African Republic welcomed Russian mercenaries from the infamous Wagner Group, which some have called Vladimir Putin's private army, about 4 years ago. While having a conversation with a female friend under a mango tree about 50 meters away from his home and having a good view of his compound from where they both stood in the western Kar village of Bezare, the 32-year-old said he watched from afar as about a dozen Russian paramilitaries who appeared from nowhere dragged the wives of two of his neighbors out of the compound, stabbed them in their abdomen, and then disemboweled the two women. The women were screaming and begging for mercy. Ali, who now lives as a refugee in Cameroon, told the Daily Beast. The white soldiers, as many Kar refer to the Wagner mercenaries, didn't listen. They killed the women and removed their stomachs and intestines. The incident, according to Ali and other witnesses, occurred on December 6 last year. They said at least 6 other women in Bezare were killed in the same manner across the village. As I was leaving the village, I saw the body of a woman who was pregnant, Malik Tete, a 29-year-old bricklayer who had fled Bezare to Cameroon after the incident, told Daily Beast. They had cut her open, removed her baby and her intestines, and left them on top of her dead body. Following the violence in Bezare, thousands of people, according to Ali and Tete, fled the village to Bokaranga, about 27 kilometers southeast of Bezare. Many others, including the witnesses, sought refugee and settlements for refugees in the eastern part of Cameroon. We were scared that these white soldiers would return and kill all of us, so we had to leave the village. Fuck this dude. If I get to be horrified by the images at Abu Ghraib and seek to change the leadership of my fucking country because I am disgusted by the Bush administration's complicity and tacit support for that kind of horse shit, then this motherfucker has to wear that shit from Wagner like a goddamn hat. And that's and you think that's a fucking isolated incident? You think that was just a random Wagner moment? Considering, I don't want to gross everybody out on the tail end of this, but it's the 1-year anniversary of the beginning of this fucking war, and this guy's still apologizing for it. So, let's see. Hold on one second. Find the actual. There you go. There you go. Why? How about that? How about floating that? Barbaric videos showing Russian soldiers castrating and murdering Ukrainian POW rather. Pair of videos published on, I can't even scroll down because it will show part of it. Pair of videos published on pro-Russian Telegram channels. Not discovered by the Russian Julian Assange and released because the country would be ashamed and would turn against the war if they knew about it. No. posted on pro-Russian Telegram channels. Run that through your fucking dome for a second. Abu Ghraib, this is, say what you will about America and what America does in the world, but when we found out about Abu Ghraib, there was anger in the country and we turned against the war, those that weren't already against it. Nobody saw Abu Ghraib and went, yeah, more of that. I mean, that's not true. Some people clearly did. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, they obviously believe, they're the folks that say we should nuke them back to the Stone Age and turn the fucking desert to glass and all that kind of shit. But as in general, the public, when they found out about Abu Ghraib and we saw the pictures, were in general horrified. And the fucking Bush administration did all this tap dancing to try and get around, well, these are stress positions and they weren't really harmed. It was just kind of irritating, but it was to get the blow. Like, fuck that. And again, it was my belief that the enhanced interrogation, the torture that those prisoners were put through, everybody knows that when you torture someone, they are more likely to say whatever you want them to say just so that it will stop. Tell you what you want to hear so the torture will stop. And most of us, when we hear that, we go, well, that means that when you torture someone, you're not getting good intel anyways. They will just tell you what you want to hear. You're not going to, that whole idea of like, tell us where the bomb is or we'll kill you. Like, there may not even be a bomb, but they'll tell you, oh, it's in the schoolhouse, it's in the bus, it's in the where do you want it to be? We want it to be under this thing. Okay, but it's there. That doesn't help you if you're actually trying to solve a problem or stop a terrorist attack or any of that kind of shit. It's not useful. But clearly, Dick Cheney heard that and went, oh, wait a minute. So if we need to tell people that there are weapons of mass destruction here or this other shit here, if we torture these guys, they'll admit to that just to get the torture to stop? Shit, tell them what they need to say and then torture them until they say it. It's fucking horrifying and grotesque. And I, like many of you, was against it for both moral and practical reasons. And the details of these things, when they came out, made the American public, in general, horrified, angered, and disgusted, and did not want this to be the policy of our government at all, right? In general? Agreed? Poll after poll, the warbs became increasingly unpopular, especially after that stuff came out. These guys are posting these videos bragging. And it is allegedly, and this is, again, I don't believe anything polling-wise that comes out of Russia anyways, but allegedly, the polling in Russia is, I guess they feel better about the war when they look how macho our guys are. They're cutting the genitals off people who have surrendered or prisoners of war or the injured. There is a huge difference between your military hiding something awful that happened because the public would be against it, and your military doing something awful and bragging so that the public will like what they are doing to people they perceive as an enemy. Morally, as a country, there's a huge fucking difference. And if you can't see that difference, you pretend it doesn't exist, you're lying on behalf of these guys. You're lying on behalf of the country that does this and is proud of it. A pair of videos published on pro-Russian Telegram channels. Published, not discovered, not uncovered, not WikiLeaks or DC leaks out into the open. That's who this guy is defending. And if anybody wants to at me about any of this shit, any trolls that are watching this now or later, or any of this pricks stands that are out there, feel free. And I'll tell you up front, I am not paid by anyone. I am not given a briefing by intelligence people to give a certain point of view. I can read and I give a shit. And I can also spot a fucking phony out of experience. And this motherfucker is a phony. He's a liar. And he's grotesquely defending these guys. Because what he's asking for is for the Ukrainians to stand down in the face of this and trust that the people that do this are going to stop. They're never going to come back, and they're going to agree to borders and terms when they never have before.
Our politicians here in Washington, they're talking about how they want to get Putin out of power, and this is a war against Putin.
No, it isn't. Putin is definitely guilty of all this stuff, and you're an asshole if you want him to run any country. And if you want him to run Russia, you fucking want torture for the Russian people, especially anybody who actually does, anti-war protests, allegedly, like this motherfucker. Because people who do anti-war protests in Russia are either arrested and thrown in prison or have to flee the fucking country. Like, hold on one second. Let's see if I can hold this. Hold on. Yeah. Like, open this up. Fuck out of here. Remember this? Remember this business? Remember her? Yeah, she had to flee Russia. She was put on house arrest, and then she was going to be tried and put in prison. She had to flee the country with her, I think, 11 or 12-year-old daughter. I don't want to fucking hear it from these guys that our government, and there's a whole thing, and intelligence is behind why my thing didn't do well, when in the country that he is supporting, this woman had to fucking flee. I don't get how these assholes can just shrug that shit off. And again, it's not me making this shit up. That happened on Russian television. That woman has been interviewed since. She was an editor on that fucking program.
That is ridiculous.
You're ridiculous.
NATO should have dissolved when the Warsaw Pact dissolved at the end of the Cold War.
First of all, the end of Russia was not the end of the Cold War, or the end of the USSR. I might be more specific. It was not the end of the Cold War. A lot of people talked about it as if, because Berlin opened up. But the Cold War itself, it was just because Russia was no longer the Soviet Socialist republics and was just Russia, doesn't mean that their animosity towards the West or their attitude had fully changed as much as they had started some opening. As a matter of fact, I think we were too quick to trust them. Had we been a little more tepid, this may have gone easier. And also, if NATO had dissolved entirely, they would have steamrolled through fucking Poland and all these other countries, because the only thing protecting a lot of these countries, Norway and Finland alike, is the fact that if you attack, is Article 5. If Article 5 didn't exist, you think Russia would have started with Ukraine?
That should have been the end of it. Instead, it has been a tool of American hegemony and empire.
Why? What's our empire? How is this American hegemony? Do we control Austria, Belgium, France, England, Spain, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania? Do we overpower their industries and force them to have, are they now the 112th states of America? Do we not have to negotiate trade with them like every other fucking country in the world? Do we not go back and forth about intellectual property and patents and all kinds of stuff like that? What the fuck are you talking about? What empire? What empire? If America was an empirical country, the way these people say, we would own Japan and Germany right now. Fuck, we'd control Bosnia and like the Bosnian territories, Bosnia and Herzegovina. We'd have just taken it under Bill Clinton, right? Why would we have ever left Afghanistan? Why would Biden leave Afghanistan if hegemony is and having a pivot point there? Why, Trump wanted to keep Bagram so that he could have a pivot point against China. Biden was like, fuck this, we're out. If we were a true imperialist power on purpose, we wanted it, we can have it. We don't want it. We're not fucking interested. It's like that book, he's just not that into you. Or she's just not that into you, depending on, your thing.
Used to wage war in Afghanistan, in Iraq, to overthrow the government of Libya and turn it into a complete failed state with open slave markets, to destroy Syria. And
yes, we installed slavery in Libya.
Occupy a third of that country, the portion with the...
I'm sorry, what part does Russia occupy currently? Also, the part with the oil revenue goes to the Kurds, goes to the Iraqi Kurds.
Oil, so we can continue stealing their resources.
We don't get their resources. There's not enough in that region to make a fucking difference. So it's just because we want that money to go to the Kurds and the northern Iraqis instead of to the Syrian government, who would use it as a weapon against their own people, but also so ISIS doesn't take that revenue.
So that's why NATO needs to be abolished. It is completely outside of the paradigm of any kind of international law, completely outside
No, it isn't.
of the paradigm of the Security Council of the United Nations.
No, it isn't.
It needs to be abolished. There are billions, tens of billions of dollars that essentially it siphons from countries across Europe, the United States, Canada, to wage war against Russia. It's military.
What? How? How has NATO ever waged war against Russia? I'm not talking about responding to something that Russia does. I'm talking about how. And again, I'm not going to, you can't say anti-ballistic missile systems so that Russian nukes can't reach their targets, because I got news for you. Standing down that shield is just dumb. We have that technology, we should use it. The idea that you wouldn't use a shield because somebody else might use their sword is ridiculous. But how? Notice how any of these motherfuckers say this? Anybody?
Militarizing all of the West now, all of the economies of the West, and of course, contributing to the militarization of even other economies outside the West, like Japan. All of this is in...
Yes. The JAWS agreement, because Japan has become, it's become necessary because of China fishing in its seas and North Korea launching missiles over it again, that the alliance with Japan and Australia and the United States to protect Taiwan, it's horrible violence. Wouldn't the world be a much more peaceful place if we just let China steamroll anybody in the South China Seas and Australia, and just let Russia take as much of Europe as it can eat? And then when its big old belly is fat and full of countries, we'll just all sit and live off. We'll get wind farms from it farting in our faces.
Enormous waste of resources that should be going towards taking care of people in our own countries.
That's right. Fuck those people. Like, why are we involved in what Germany does to the Jews 1937? It's none of our fucking business. We've got, we just had a stock market crash 10 years ago. We're still recovering from that. Why are we worried about something happening in a part of, Dachau, some part of Poland nobody can even pronounce?
Instead of waging war against others, we have enough problems.
Thank you, Audrey, by the way. And thanks, Fred. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. And Diana, thank you again.
Problems in the United States, massive
You.
homelessness, exploding homelessness.
Yeah, there are no exploding homeless people. I'm just saying.
Lack of health care, lack of education, lack of...
No. You can say it needs improvement. And again, most of the problems we have in all these areas have to do with people stopping the funding going there, not the lack of funding itself.
Of ability to take care of oneself here in this country.
I'm sorry. If you can't figure out how to soap your folds, it's none of my goddamn business.
Why are we spending $100 billion waging war against Ukraine and billions more?
Well, that's easy. We aren't. I don't know what you've been reading, but we are not spending billions of dollars waging war against Ukraine.
Financing NATO.
I don't know. I'm starting to think this guy's talking out of his ass.
It's the ultimate question, right?
It totally is. It's the ultimate question. What the fuck are you talking about? It's
because it keeps the military-industrial complex burning and churning as an excuse to funnel more weapons, more money.
No. You know who does that? Vladimir Putin. I got news for you. If that motherfucker didn't attack somebody, our money would have been spent on the infrastructure industrial complex, and we'd have been just fine. We already budget maxed ourselves for military spending. Nobody was like, oh shit, they cut the military budget in half. We got to jumpstart this shit. Just goofy.
Money into this endless furnace, this cauldron of money-burning machine.
Oh, we're not in Afghanistan anymore. And by the way, can I just 1 second real quick? I know give me 1 second. Excuse me. Hi. Can I help you, young man? Come here. Hi. What did you? I'm doing a show. You're just meowing outside the door, and what's happening? What is it? I'll get you a snack in a minute. The show's on. I know I went long. I know, buddy. Hush. What you doing? I'm not okay. Hang on. He's a big boy. This is Chip, everybody. Chip, everybody, Chip. Hi, buddy. What you doing? You little kitty. You're such a good boy. You are. You're a good boy. You want a snack? Is that what it is? I will. A couple more minutes. I'll get you a snack. Okay, I promise. I'll come in a minute. Give me a second. It's like, wait a minute, you can't shut the door again, asshole. All right. Oh, Chipster. So, anyways, sorry, we interrupted this dickhead in a moment of prayer.
Enriches the military-industrial complex. And
yeah, it was totally words that I've heard other people say as a way of getting what I want, that I will appropriate for my own use, that I don't actually feel. But I understand that if I say them, a certain segment of the population will sit up like a dog when somebody says walk.
Takes the lives of countless thousands, millions.
Oh, JD, thank you so much. Chip loves you too. Diana, thank you so much.
Of people in their wars. Well said.
Yeah, so good. I don't know what it was, but it was good. I mean, you hit all the buzzwords in some semblance of an order. None of it made any fucking sense, but we appreciate you coming on and gargling Putin's balls like some sort of weird Russian circus act.
Well said, and on this show, we are absolutely big proponents of what you're talking about.
Yeah, what you said about the thing, we're into that. Yeah, I've been thinking about that myself. As a matter of fact, I brought up what you said before you said it the other day, before I even thought it.
So where can people, if they happen to be in London, of course, we don't have an exact location.
Well, and I think you answered your own question, dumb fuck. All right, I don't care about these guys.